Texas Lutheran University.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to Texas Lutheran University. My name is Morgan Glazer, and I'm the director of our Center for Servant Leadership here on campus. So basically that means that I coordinate our civic engagement opportunities for students and try to help them get plugged in with what's going on in the community. And so we are really excited to have everyone here for our candidate forum tonight, which focuses on our city of Seguin and Guadalupe County elections. And first, I'd like to thank all of the candidates that are out here tonight in the rain and checked out here to share with all of you about what their views are and what their plans would be in the positions that they are running for. I'd also like to thank everyone out in the audience for coming to campus. Welcome, and we're glad that you're here. I hope that you are able to learn a lot from your listening and interacting tonight. As Mr. Davila did say, we have note cards and pencils that after I speak, I'll kind of walk around with them, and as you fill them out, just hold them up and get my attention, and I can collect them for you. As a couple of housekeeping things, we do have restrooms that are out. If you go into the lobby, the gallery area, there's some open doors that go into the interior of the building, and there's restrooms in that hallway that you're welcome to use. We'll also have some cookies after the forum is over, so stick around to grab a cookie out in the gallery afterwards. This event is a collaboration between my office, the Center for Servant Leadership here at TLU, and Community Forum. And we're very grateful to be able to bring all the candidates here for you. And I'm happy to now introduce our moderator for the evening, Mr. Eddie Davila. And he's going to be taking care of y'all tonight and introducing all of our candidates.
First, I'd like to personally thank you for coming out tonight, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening, especially in this beautiful weather we're having out here. So thank you for that. But I'd also like to thank Texas Lutheran University for allowing us to use this facility. I think this venue is great for something like this. Also, the Community Forum. Thank you for partnering with the TLU Center for Servant Leadership. It's a wonderful event, and the idea is to promote an informed vote and really just to facilitate a conversation with questions and so forth for your candidates. And I'd like to take a moment and thank you guys for doing what you're doing. It's not it takes a lot of nerve and a lot of guts to come up here. And number one, take questions that you haven't been prepared to be asked, but to do what's asked of you as an elected official should you take that position. So thank you guys for coming out tonight. There's one more housekeeping duty here is if you do have your cell phone with you, do me a favor and turn it down if you don't mind, or put it on mute so that it doesn't go off during a question and answer period. I'd also like to thank Sandra here for being our timekeeper. That's a very important part of this forum so that we can keep everything flowing and keep everything on track, so each of you will have an opportunity to get your word across. Now, the way this is going to work this evening is we are going to ask a few questions that are prepared. And what we'll do is we'll gather the 3x5 cards that you have in the audience. If you have any questions, write them down. Again, this is to get questions and answers for you as a voter. So that's real important that we ask questions that impact your lives, Seguin's lives, and so forth, and the county of Guadalupe County's lives. But if you can make sure your phones are on mute, and what we'll do here is I'm going to go down the line here. I'm going to make it pretty easy here. I'm going to ask, starting with Judge Kutcher here, we're going to, I call, you have your elevator speech, but we're going to give them a little long elevator here. We're going to give you about 6 minutes each to, right at 6 minutes, I should say, to, number one, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us why you're running, and, but I do ask that when that 6 minutes is up, look, it's uncomfortable for me to interrupt you, but I have to do it so we can keep this thing flowing. So keep it right at 6 minutes, and then what we'll do is we'll go through the question and answers and keep those at 90 seconds apiece. But what I'd like to do is ask the judge to come on up here first and introduce himself, and Judge Kutcher.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kyle Pitcher. I'm the Guadalupe County Judge. I am unopposed this cycle, which means I do not have an opponent, but I do appreciate the invitation to be here, for you to include me. It's important for candidates to get together, to talk about issues, collaborate. That's how we have good ideas. That's ultimately how we best serve the residents and the constituents of our city and our county. A little bit about myself. I'm a lifelong resident of Guadalupe County. I went to Navarro High School in Geronimo. I'm a graduate of this wonderful university, Texas Lutheran University. After college, I worked for the appraisal district as a land and agricultural appraiser. I ran for county commissioner in precinct 2 in 2010, was elected. It began in 2011. And then I'm finishing up my first term as county judge now. And if everything goes well in November, I'll start the new term in January. I just want to give a little bit of an update about the county. Guadalupe County is a wonderful place to be, and it's an exciting time to be in county government and government of all aspects. In 2000, the population of Guadalupe County was about 89,000 people. 2010 census, 10 years later, we're about 132,000. We sit about 160,000 population today, and estimated around 185,000 population by the time the census and redistricting is completed in 2021. Some of the long-term projections show our county anywhere from 290 to 350,000 people by 2040, 2045. Those are some pretty staggering numbers that are definitely going to impact how all of us, the city and the county, plan and make those decisions, and basically what's going to impact the residents of the county. Some of the things we've been working on and focusing on definitely have been capital projects, construction, planning for growth. We've definitely been transportation minded and focused this year in the budget. It's the first time we committed $500,000 for strictly for regional transportation projects. We basically put money aside and participate in the MPO, which is a regional transportation planning group that is going to impact our county and our residents for many, many years to come, long after all of us are gone. So it's something that's really important. Another thing that we committed to addressing this year was our radio and communication system for law enforcement, our first responders. We have about a 17 or 18-year-old communication system that is utilized by our sheriff's department, constables, our fire departments, and our fire marshal and emergency management coordinator. We are now partnering with the city of Seguin and having very good conversations that had never happened before to look at going together to not only benefit those agencies I just mentioned, but to provide the best economical situation and get the best product at the end of the day. And I'm happy to say that the city has been wonderful thus far. We actually have one of our next meetings next Wednesday. So it's going to be something that's going to impact all of us for a long time. There's so many things I could give an update on. I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to say we're always welcome at the county. We always welcome you for any conversations, comments, questions, concerns. We're willing to help. That's what we're here for. We serve you. We appreciate you. If you ever need anything from us, please let us know.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jim Levens. Now, Jim Levens is the incumbent appointed to District 3 for the City Council. Now, he does have an opponent, Mr. Chris Aviles, I'm sorry. And Chris, unfortunately, had a prior commitment, but he did ask that I read a statement. And Chris would like and here's a statement from Chris. I would like to take a common sense approach in our community affairs. I am running because I want to make a difference in our community. My platform consists of family, business, industry, progress, and growth. I chose this platform because each perspective is reciprocal to each other. Families make up the community, and they also bring and make up business. Families also take part in the industries that surround and make up our city. Each corresponding family, business, and industry then allows for the city to progress into the future. The forward progress then leads to residential and commercial growth. Seguin can then continue to prosper and thrive. With this approach, I believe the way of life here in Seguin can be free and beautiful. With this sustainment and progress, I firmly believe we can give our community a chance to work, our youth a future, old age a security, and a positive future for our community. Thank you. Sincerely, Chris Hodges. And now I'd like to, Mr. Jim Levens, representing District 3.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you to all who have shown up tonight for this candidates forum. My thanks go to the TLU Center for Servant Leadership as well as the Community Forum for sponsoring this. And although I can't really see anymore, I want to thank my family, my wife of 35 years, Tracy, my teenage son, Alex, and somewhere out there, one of my brothers, Alan, who's an outstanding professor here at TLU. Thank you all for being here. I was honored to win the election last year for the District 3 seat. It was to fill the 1-year unexpired term of my departed friend, Phil Seidenberg. At the time when I won it, I made it clear that I'd be back again this year because I'm in it for the long haul. Wasn't in it for just 1 year, that's for certain. So I'm going to use this time to kind of tell you a little bit about who I am, what I stand for, and what I intend on doing this next 4 years. For starters, I understand the Seguin community. Since moving to Seguin in the early 90s, I've been involved. I've been involved with the Chamber. I've been involved in service clubs, First Rotary, now Geronimo Lions. I've been involved with the United Way as campaign chair. I've been involved in my church, First United Methodist, Seguin Youth Services, Navarro Education Foundation, the old Operation Paintbrush, the Walnut Branch Committee. I could go on and on. And folks, the purpose of being involved, or the benefit of being involved, is I got to know this community and form long-standing relationships. I understand manufacturing, having worked at Seguin Steel Mill, CMC, for 22 years. And as we steelmakers would always say, Seguin is good for industry, and industry is good for Seguin. I understand higher education and the benefits of workforce development after being with the Alamo Colleges for 5 years, working in San Antonio. I understand servant leadership, both at CMC and at the Alamo Colleges. I taught leadership, I modeled it. And in my viewpoint, principle-centered leadership that I embody involves having vision, integrity, accountability, listening, mutual respect, and above all, a desire to make a difference. Service above self. That's the old Rotary model. A little more than 18 months ago, I sacrificed career goals and salary to start a career in real estate in Seguin. In my job and in everything I do, I sell Seguin. I changed careers for several reasons. Partly, I wanted the flexibility to be able to help with the health needs of my mother-in-law and my mother. I wanted to be able to participate in more of Alex's school events. And I wanted to be more involved in the community. I'm a man of conviction, I'm genuine, and I'm honest. Let's talk a little bit about our city. It takes historical perspective to appreciate the amount of progress that has been made over these past 20 years. And that a lot of that has to do with the continuity we've had at city council and at city staff levels, at both levels. New library, new parks, continued revitalization of downtown. Progress, though not as much as I'd like to see, in street maintenance. Solid economic development. We lead the state per capita in manufacturing jobs in Seguin. We've had a lot of progress, and while we've been making that progress, we've kept public safety foremost, and we have kept our tax rate relatively low. Our challenges moving forward are balancing the infrastructure needs of a 180-year-old city with the expansive growth that's on our doorstep. While we still have many streets and older subdivisions that are well overdue for maintenance, we're also preparing for over 5,500 new homes currently platted in subdivisions that are coming our way. We need to increase our progress in taking care of existing infrastructure while at the same time effectively managing the subdivision growth and adhering to our community master plan. The biggest concern I have is our need for retail growth, specifically on the west and the north side of town. Too many of our residents along Highway 46 find it just as easy to drive to New Braunfels for shopping than to come into Seguin. We need to keep our sales tax dollars here, folks. Residents need to buy cars here, Eddie. Residents need to buy their furniture and clothes here. We need to support our existing businesses. We need to promote additional restaurants and retail to come here. If you look at our year-to-date sales tax revenue, it's significant because it's going up, but it pales in comparison to surrounding communities. $6.7 million in sales tax revenue in 10 months. New Braunfels is at $26 million. San Marcos is at $29 million. That has a very real effect, folks, because unless we can grow that, it's going to affect our property tax rate, and we'd like to keep that as low as we can. It also, by increasing sales tax revenue, will help us increase city services. A year ago, I said I wanted to be known as a council representative who listens to and responds to the public. My record is solid in that regard. I also pride myself in developing good working relationships with city staff. I take pride in representing the best interests of both the Seguin and the Vero ISDs. I've worked closely with the newly developed HOA in our largest subdivision at Mill Creek. I'm pushing hard for increased customer service at City Hall. I took pride in helping to keep the Matador on that water tower near Seguin High School. And I'm continuing to work on getting rid of Lake Hidalgo along FM 78. And all along, I fully support our police and our fire personnel. My name is Jim Liebens. I am your City Council representative for District 3. I'm here today before you humbly asking for your vote to help me continue on this journey that we are on together. I believe in Seguin. I know you do too. And I want to thank you again for your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Liggins. So next, we've got District 7, currently held by Donna Dodgen. And unfortunately, she is unable to run for another term. She's reached her term limit. So now we're going to have Penny Wallace and William Odom Jr. that are vying for that spot. If I can have Mr. Odom come on up and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'd like to thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. It is a dark and stormy night. It is a privilege for me to be here and participate in this forum. My name is Bill Odom, and I'm running for the District 7 City Council seat. My roots run deep in Seguin. My family moved to Seguin in 1973. My dad was a teacher at the high school. My mom was the manager of the old S&H grain stamp store on River Street. Does anybody here remember the S&H grain stamps? I graduated from Seguin High School in 1976, and I lived in Seguin through 1979. After that, I started my path in life, only to circle back to my hometown. I returned to the family home on Elm Street in 2012. My passions are my kids, grandkids, and my dogs. Depending on the day, that order can change. I always had in my heart to go into public service, having been a part of the Seguin Volunteer Fire Department in the 70s, serving as volunteer EMT at Bernie in the 80s, and earning a Texas Peace Officer certification at Allen Community College in the 90s. Public service, however, did not become my career path. I was drawn to manufacturing, and I've been in that sector to this day. I currently work for a manufacturer in San Marcos. I was very pleased when I saw that the city proclaimed recently the Manufacturers' Day. I believe very strongly that an economy cannot thrive without a manufacturing base. Having spent 40 years in the sector, I have watched the slow erosion of U.S. manufacturing that has caused a major shift to the strong service and strengthen the service sector, but the service sector itself cannot sustain an economy on its own. So I'm very pleased and proud that Seguin has the highest per capita manufacturing employment in the state. This is a solid underpinning to build a robust economy which benefits everyone. As for my current interest in public service, it comes from a desire to be a good neighbor and a productive member of our community. It was sparked by recently attending the Seguin Citizens Police Academy. By the way, I hope everyone is aware of the top-tier public service departments we have in this community. They are terrific, and I've lived in a lot of places, and Seguin is one of the best when it comes to public service. I've seen many changes in the past 6 years that have been very positive. The growth of our manufacturing base, the development of new neighborhoods around the city, and the revitalization of the downtown area are all positive indicators of the city on the move. Although I wish Duke and Harris was still at the corner of Austin and Court, it was my first job and I missed the old five and dime story. I've watched Seguin grow. I've also watched the explosive growth in Madronville, San Marcos, and other I-35 corridor cities. My hope is that Seguin has the presence of mind not to jump on the hyper-growth bandwagon and instead play the long game. I would like to participate in the continued preservation of our small-town charm and would like to see controlled, steady, sustainable growth. I would like to be a respectful neighbor and honestly and transparently represent the citizens of District 7 and to be their voice on the council. I thank all the people that have stepped up to run for various positions in the city and are willing to represent their neighbors and the interests of the city. I'm looking forward to working with a productive group of like-minded citizens interested in serving the community. I would also like to thank the Community Forum and the TLU Center for Servant Leadership for sponsoring this event. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Ms. Wallace, Ms. Penny Wallace for District 7.
Good evening. I want to thank the Community Forum and the TLU Center for Servant Leadership for putting on this event. It's very much appreciated. My name is Penny Wallace, and I'm a candidate for City Council District 7. Just to start out, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I did grow up in Seguin. In fact, I lived the first 14 years of my life in District 7 over on East Gonzales Street. Rode my bicycle to Weiner Elementary. I graduated from Seguin High School and then went on to Texas A&M, where I received my bachelor's and my master's degrees. After I left A&M, I went to Houston. I taught driver's ed there for 1 year, and then quickly hightailed it back to Seguin. I taught at Seguin High School. I taught math, and I revitalization of downtowns. I see it going on across the country, and I think it's great. Fill those empty buildings. Put something downtown that people like to do, so they will park their cars and walk. And go from store to store, restaurant to restaurant, maybe art venue, music venue, and parks, library, and they'll visit with each other. So downtown revitalization is one thing. Another thing that we need in a vibrant community is both small and large business. We need to bring in those large businesses, to bring in those jobs, and to bring in outside investment. If we don't bring in outside dollars, then we're just rotating the dollars that we have inside our city limits, or sending them out, and that's even worse. So we need those big businesses, but we also need small businesses. I think that the small businesses are the glue that holds it all together. It's the personality of a community, and we definitely need to support our small businesses. Another thing the vibrant community needs is that thing that sometimes we take for granted, and maybe we take it for granted because it's working well, but that would be law enforcement, fire, EMS, public works, parks and recreation, and so on. All of those things are important for a vital community. What is the city's role in this vibrant community? One, the city council passes city ordinances that promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. Those city ordinances need to be based on common sense and best practices. They need to be communicated very well to the citizens and recommunicated very well. And they need to be enforced in a manner that is courteous and prompt. The city council also passes a budget, and so then of course it's very important to manage the public funds that are part of the city's revenues, and then spend them in a way that will benefit that vibrant community. The third thing, I have one more sentence. The third thing is sometimes government just needs to get out of the way. And so that sums up my vision for Seguin, and if elected or not, I'm going to do all I can to ensure vibrant Seguin.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Next, we have, okay. I'd like to do this. I know we're going to be pressed for time, but I'd like to, because we're still in the city council, Jeremy.
Okay.
I'd like to call you up here if you don't mind.
You bet.
Jeremy Roy is running unopposed for District 5 in place of the late Carlos Medrano.
Thank you, Eddie. And Vicki for putting this together, and TLU, and for having us. It would be great if we could see y'all.
Yeah, frustrating.
But we can't. Is there a way we could get the lights up? I might throw the video off, I'm not sure. I'm Jeremy Roy. There we go. There's people out there, y'all. I'm Jeremy Roy. Like Eddie said, I'm running for District 5 and unopposed. So far, it's been one of the easiest things I've ever done. Buying signs or collecting money. So it's been easy. But I know the challenges are ahead, and I'm ready to meet them. I'm glad to be running. And I keep being asked, why am I running? Are you nuts, they'll say. And the answer is, I guess so, a little bit. Other than the fact that my life really has been about service. I'm in the ministry, and it's been about serving other people. And I want to keep doing that. There's just this deep sense that this is mine to do. I've been approached over the years, asked to do it, said no, more than once. And I just thought this time, you know what? I'm going to do this. I work in the Braunfels at Resolute Health Hospital. I worked at GRNC for nearly 14 years, and then went over there to start a new ministry and start a new program there. I went with Mr. Haynes' blessing to do something new. It's been really exciting. It consumed a lot of my time. And all this community involvement, all these things that I was doing in Seguin, I just stopped doing. The library board and other nonprofits and helping agencies, I just pulled back. And this is my opportunity to jump back in there roll up my sleeves, get involved, and help. District 5 includes all of downtown. I live just a block off the square there, and I love it. There's so much happening. In fact, there are so many good things just happening in Guadalupe County and in Seguin, period. And it's just this desire to get involved. We got a council that works well together. They cooperate with each other. I don't know if you remember, there were times back, pre-Betty Ann days where the council might have been, had a little conflict. That is gone. Or at least reduced greatly. The city working with the county. Good things happening all over the place. I've driven all around my district. I walk it every morning, and I've walked nearly every street. They're all in really good condition. We've got a brand new library in District 5. Mr. Medrano is a big part of all that good work in District 5. Walnut Branch, all those improvements. So it really, for me, is about getting involved in something good and doing my part. I grew up here, like I said. We moved here, I was about a year old. I went to Weiner, I went to Sager, went to Seguin High School, and my kids followed the same path. Weiner, Sager, Seguin High School. And they all graduated and moved on. And I think it's my turn. I think Fonda would probably agree. It's our generation's turn to get involved and to serve. An integral part of my ministry as a hospital chaplain involves serving as an advocate for the patient, standing between them and their family and administration, and making sure all the right things are done. I'm a patient rights advocate in my role, and I think that's going to play into the job that I have as a city councilman to advocate for folks. One of the things I'm the most excited, I love downtown. There's 5 churches in District 5. There are several bars. I'm a Baptist, but I'm not that good at Baptist. I'm glad the bars are there too. But I love downtown, but you know what else is in my district? Not Riverview, but Fairview Terrace is in my district. And so is Walnut Branch Towers, 2 of our housing projects. I've already spoken to Brenda Evans at length about how do I make sure that I'm representing them as well as I possibly can. Do they know that they're a valued part of our citizenry? And so when I sit in that seat that Mr. Medrano sat in, and so many others have sat in, Danny Daniels and others, am I doing everything I can to advocate for them also? I want to be that guy. So that's why I'm running. I'm glad to do it. Looking forward to serving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Then we've got District 8, Mark Herbel, who's running unopposed. Unfortunately, Mark had prior commitments. He couldn't join us this evening, but he asked that he said, hey, it kind of worked out. I think it'll work out for the best and give the other candidates that do have opponents a chance to have more time to answer any questions they might have. Now, what we'll do is we're going to move over to the county for Judy Coe. In her place, Jim Wilberton will be speaking on her behalf. Now, she does have an opponent. She's challenged by Rebecca Tucker, who is unable to be here this evening as well.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. And for the record, I'm not her twin brother either. Ms. Coe has been a county commissioner for 16 years. She's in Houston, Texas right now, continuing education, which is mandatory by the state of Texas. I tell you, she's also the county's representative to the TAC legislation board, and she'll be up there in 2-3 weeks, working with TAC to try to get all the bills that we need passed. Once again, she regrets not being able to be here, so I will be sitting with her trying to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilberton. We've also got Drew Eagle-Key for Precinct 2 in the county commissioner. He is also running unopposed. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here this evening. He had prior commitments as well.
Excuse me.
For JP Precinct 3, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 3, that spot is currently held by Judge Roy Richard. He's not running for re-election. We've got Ms. Ornalis that is unable to be here due to prior commitment, as well as John Torrey, who's unable to be here as well. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get started with the question and answer part of our event. And again, for the candidates here, I do ask that we keep it at 90 seconds on your answer. It's uncomfortable for me to interrupt you, so please show courtesy to the other candidates here. But what we'll do is we'll start with the city. And Mr. Odom, since you went first, I'm going to ask that Ms. Wallace go first in answering the questions. The first question. Now, Ms. Wallace, you mentioned that you were on some of these on a zoning board. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why? So it's a two-part question again. So if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why?
I'm thinking. Is this on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You know, the Zoning Board of Adjustment sits to hear variances on the codes that are in place. And most of the codes I have found to be very much common sense, but sometimes there are certain circumstances where they don't apply and the people can get variances. I think we have the most problem with signs. So I guess that maybe looking at the zoning ordinances on signs might be a good idea. There is a lot of controversy on, I need the ability to advertise my business, but is it blocking a view? Is it unsightly? There's quite a bit of controversy on signs, so that might be something I would want to learn more about, maybe change, maybe not.
Thank you. Mr. Odom, if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why?
I'm not as familiar with the zoning codes as most of the people up here. To me, the zoning has been done very well. I can't imagine changing any of the zoning that we do have currently. I think the businesses and the residential have plenty of separation. So I'm sorry, I just don't, I can't even think of anything that I think needs changed. I mean, the direction that the city's been going has been terrific. A lot of good decisions have been made.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Mr. Levens?
Same question, I presume?
Yes, if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why?
Well, Fonda's tired of me talking about this, but one thing that I keep advocating, especially for our subdivision growth, is larger lots. I'm frankly, it seems like all the new all the subdivisions we're getting have the R1 designation or R2, which are basically about 6 lots per acre, so that's 0.16 acres per lot. I talk as much as I can with Pam Centeno at City Hall to try to encourage her to encourage developers, but frankly, that's where it lies. We're sort of at developers' mercy. Guys, they know what sells. They know the price points, and frankly, the proof's in the pudding. If you look at a place like Mill Creek, that place is sold out. But I think eventually the market will correct itself, and eventually we'll start getting subdivisions that have the larger lot sizes. That's something that personally I'd like to see, and that helps a lot with that subdivision traffic that sometimes those who live in those subdivisions are concerned with.
Thank you. Mr. Roy, if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why?
Could you tell me what is a zoning code? No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. It's actually the thing, as I've been answering that question, folks are saying, why are you running? Then they followed up with their complaints, right? This is what you need to do when you get in. And honestly, a lot of the complaints are around zoning codes, code enforcement, that whole department, inspections, building codes. It comes to that. I guess by nature, some of that's adversarial, but it's got to be done. Zoning has to change. The subdivision that's going on, I think on Martindale, is that right? That all had to be rezoned, right? I think it was commercial, now it's residential. It's all about growth. I think Penny's exactly right. It's about common sense, doing the right thing, what's called for. Does it make sense? And going forward with it. So I don't know that I could name one thing. I think it's going to be case by case and looking at it each time. What's going in here? Why? Does it belong there? How's it going to impact the community around it? And yeah, common sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roy. So what we'll do, Mr. Roy, we'll start off with you this time.
All right.
So what are 3 priorities that you believe the city of Seguin must address, and how would you address these 3 priorities?
I'd start with growth. It's been said, and it's worth saying again, it's got to be good, slow, steady growth. Not fast, overwhelming, where we can't keep up with it. And that's done so many factors. The school district, it's why we have good people like Linda Duncan on the school board. Our schools are in good shape. They're performing well. All that lends itself to growth. And you can't do growth without economic development. So we've got our SCDC. We've got Josh, Robert Haynes is the president of that. They're doing all they can to pull people into that. I think secondly, it's going to be, and this I think is a pride for Seguin, there hasn't been a tax increase. Property values have gone up, but taxes haven't. So go Seguin, let's keep doing that. And then the third thing, Jim actually touched on, Jim Levens, it's the customer service, it's what goes on between the town hall and the community. Do they feel like they're being served well?
Thank you, Mr. Roy.
You're welcome.
Mr. Levens, what do you believe, or what are the 3 priorities you believe the city of Seguin must address, and how would you address these 3 priorities?
Thank you, Jeremy, so we could all have time to think.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to limit it to 3, really. Communication, relationships, customer service, those have all got to be involved. Communication with the county, communication with the school districts, communication with staff, communication with the residents. We all got to be on the same page if we're going to manage this growth that's coming our way. And we can't fight the growth. We can't try to slow it down. It's coming. It's coming, guys. Customer service, yes. And I was so proud of the SMI culture that I cut my teeth on, and I'm proud of what I've seen at GRMC, what I've experienced there. So customer service at City Hall is a must. But as far as if you want actual topics, I would say the retail growth and the neighborhood development, a lot of that goes through our planning and zoning area and economic development areas. So it's in those constant communications. And what happens in executive session when we talk about how we're encouraging businesses to come into town. And let's don't forget about the existing infrastructure. I see your dad out there. Your street on Traeger is going to be addressed in about a week and a half. We can't forget about the streets that are already out there and what needs to be done. And my hope is that's going to be a long-term fix rather than a short-term. So we've got to address the 180-year-old needs of this community.
Thank you. Mr. Odom, what are 3 priorities you believe the city of Seguin must address, and how would you address these three priorities?
Again, it's going to get somewhat repetitive, I believe. The residential and commercial growth, it needs to be slow and steady, well thought out, common sense. We can overwhelm our infrastructure. We can overwhelm our public services, our school system, if we do not control that growth. Continued support for our public service departments. We need to make sure that it's budgeted fairly and that we continue our support because they are outstanding departments. Some of the departments are even leading edge in the state of Texas, and we need to keep it that way. Infrastructure is really big. I live in the historic district, as does Penny, and roads, utilities, they need to be addressed. I know they've already started the 3 backbone streets, but now we need to work on the east-west streets and get them into shape. Moved here in 1973. I still have the same patches in the front of the house that were there in 1973, you know. And it's not just me, it's everybody in that neighborhood. So that would be a priority.
Thank you. Ms. Wallace, what are the 3 priorities you believe the city of Seguin must address, and how would you address these priorities?
One priority I'm going to call recommunication. I think that we do a good job of communication. We put the word out there. But has it ever happened in your home when you told somebody something and they said, "You didn't tell me that"? Yeah, it happens all the time. You did. Yeah. So it's that recommunication. It's remembering that we have to get that word out there again and again and again. And the information isn't going to be exchanged until the people are ready to listen. But we just have to understand that and keep working on good communication. Seguin needs to be open for business. And I think that's another thing that we need to really kind of figure out how to get to yes. And this is one of the things that I've heard from some of the smaller businesses in town is that it's easy to get to no, but it's a little harder to get to yes. And the businesses really need us to get to yes. So being open for business. And then I've already mentioned customer service, and so have some others. So I'm going to pass on that. And I'm just going to say my biggest wish, which I know I'm not going to get because I've already asked, but I wish that the electric lines could be buried.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
I know, it's expensive.
Mr. Levens, so we've all talked about growth, attracting residential growth, business growth. But what are your ideas for preserving our community's unique character while promoting residential and business growth? So I'd like to know what your ideas would be to preserve our unique character while promoting residential and business growth.
Well, it seems like there's 2 questions there, but so if you're talking about preserving this unique heritage that the city of Seguin has, I mean, look at our city's namesake, Juan Seguin. I'm sorry, Waco, that Texas Ranger Museum should be here. We were one of the birthplaces of the Texas Rangers. We're doing so much to capitalize on this history that we have with the Walnut Branch Park, with the beautiful library there. I think we need to continue that. I mean, just as a sidebar conversation the other day when the school district was saying that Lizzie Burgess and Juan Seguin schools need to be sold off, my first thought was, well, we need to figure out a way to make that a part of the Walnut Creek Park. And I'd like to call personally, or go up personally to the Ranger Museum and see if they will bring something down here to where a Ranger Museum belongs, and have maybe, anybody remember the old stables, the Ranger stables that were down in the Walnut Park area years ago? Maybe recreate something like that. But that's the sort of thing, is capitalize on our heritage. And we've all talked about the downtown development and really build on this unique character, heritage that we have. You know, I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley, so I'm familiar with South Texas culture. So we have this blend in Seguin, whether it's represented by Teatro de Artes or some of the German community. So we need to blend and take advantage, kind of like a trip to Fiesta, Texas, you know, if you've been there. You know, and really capitalize on all the diversity we have in this area. As far as the second question, it was specifically about businesses.
We'll have to get to that later.
Sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. So, all right, Ms. Wallace, let me ask you, what are your ideas for preserving our community's unique character while promoting residential and business growth?
We have some organizations in Seguin that are very committed to promoting our heritage. I think that we can assist them and build on what they're doing. That would be the work of the Heritage Museum, the Conservation Society. The Art League is, they have a great project going on with a very old building and trying to bring back the old Klein Opera House. I think that would just be an awesome venue if we could see that happen. So I believe if we could promote these nonprofits that are already working to maintain that heritage, then we would have a lot of success there. I was thinking when Mr. Levens was talking about some of the different events that we had in town the last weekend in September, the DSE Says was postponed, so it was held then, and Oktoberfest was just down the street. So we kind of had our own little international event going on, but we weren't really working together, so maybe we could work together a little bit more on those things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Odom, what are your ideas for preserving our community's unique character while promoting residential and business growth?
Well, we've mentioned the growth and the manufacturing sector, the need for growth in retail. One of the things that hasn't been brought up yet is growth in tourism. We have the same river as New Braunfels, and I think carefully developed, that could encourage a lot of tourism to the city. As it is now, we know the San Marcos and New Braunfels have a lot of challenges because of too many people along the rivers. And as far as like preservation of what we already have, I think preservation of like the historic district, encouraging people to rebuild older homes, discourage the tear down and then building of new homes on older lots in the historic district. I'm not a big believer in that at all. And as we know, the downtown district that development is fully underway and is outstanding.
Thank you. Mr. Roy?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, what are your ideas for preserving our community's unique character while promoting residential and business growth?
I think we just did it, right? I think that's what happened with the tower. There was call it an oversight. It wasn't on the agenda to consider the Matador, but the citizenry, they knew it was important. They brought it to the council's attention. Not only did the council agree, but they voted to pay for half of it. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go pick up packages at the train station on Guadalupe, and it just went away. And that was all about growth. It was all about the railroad owned it, but it was gone, torn down before we even knew it. So growth was happening, but this historic building has disappeared. John Gessick is still grieving over that, that building is gone. So it's about the community helping the council stay aware, you know, that these buildings, this way of life, how we do things, something as simple as a Matador on a water tower, we maintain who we are by maintaining those things. Yeah.
Thank you. So, this is more of a county question. I'll go ahead and ask Judge Cushman just a quick answer. What do you see as the most pressing, or what do you see as most pressing? I'm sorry, let me rephrase. I can't read my writing sometimes. What do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in the county? What do you foresee?
So, you know, a county is quite a bit different than the city in the sense that counties are not allowed and don't have zoning authority. We have a lot of different areas that we focus on, but one area I think is definitely transportation. That's one way that a county, many counties in the state of Texas, but especially our county here, can have an impact on what happens with development. Planning for development, right-of-way management, preservation. We have a thoroughfare plan through the county which lays out planned and projected roadways and what they'll look like long into the future once property is sold and developed. And how you preserve that right-of-way is having that plan in place. And basically can definitely save quite a bit of money in the long term when that roadway needs to be expanded. But that's definitely one area that we need to focus on. We have been, but we can continue to strive to improve that side. On the capital projects side, we have done a tremendous amount of capital construction projects in the county over the years. But one of the biggest things preparing for the growth in our county has been the purchase of 134 acres directly across from our sheriff's office for long-term expansion and possible relocation of quite a few county departments out to that property. There's definitely a commitment on the county to keep the courthouse in its location forever and never consider moving it. But there's also going to be a need as downtown revitalizes and their county grows that we make a move for that. So that's going to be a big focus for the county and moving forward in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Wolverton, I know you're speaking on behalf of Ms. Cope, but what would you say that she sees as the most pressing needs regarding infrastructure or capital projects within the county?
As the judge mentioned, the one thing he failed to mention is that we have just entered into an agreement, well, a couple of months back for our master plan, which the county had kicked it around for years and years, but under the judge's guidance, we finally have one. And so you're gonna find out that people come and go, but this basic master plan will be the guiding light for Guadalupe County, because we do know we're quickly growing, we're running out of office space, and we were behind the curve for years on not getting buildings needed to house the county employees, so we can service the people of Guadalupe County.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to ask one more question, and while we're answering these questions, if we can get the index cards up here with your questions. But what I'd like to know is, every one of you during the campaign has spoken just about every corner of the county and the city and so forth. What have there been, what are they most concerned about, or what are they coming to you and say, hey, how, what, and how can we address this situation? What has been the people's, your constituents' questions, or most pressing needs, I guess is my question. I mean, does everybody understand? Because I got myself confused myself here, but I guess you've all spoken, so I'd like to know what their major concerns are. Let's go start with you, Judge.
Sure. Most of the conversations I have with constituents, taxpayers, it's usually two-sided. It's either people moving into the county is typically new residents who live out in the unincorporated area outside of the city limits who want city-type services that the county not only doesn't provide, but doesn't plan to provide because of the struggles and expense with that. The other side of that is you have a lot of long-term county residents that lived out in the rural and agricultural areas of the county not wanting to grow. So there's very two-sided in many senses. Now you have a lot of people that are in between, but the concern and the questions and the recurring comments that come up with those two sides are very different. Again, one wanting those services, and the other saying, leave us alone, why are we growing so quick, what can you do to help? The challenge for us as a county is to of course, use information and common sense to try to make those decisions that are in the best interest of the taxpayers. But we understand that we have to represent people that live in the city, people that live outside that want those services, but also try to do our best to help preserve the agricultural and rural heritage of the county, which is still a very big part of our county.
Thank you, Judge.
Guadalupe.
Go ahead. Mr.
Mr. Williams.
I think I don't want to talk too much more about infrastructure needs as far as streets, but that is what I often hear. The worst road in town is the road that's in front of your house, wherever you live. That's kind of what I get quite often. The thing is with the city, we have a limited budget. And but one thing we do have, we also have a very logical approach to the way we handle the city street needs, whether it be through the NPO projects that the judge mentioned earlier, whether it be through the zipper equipment that we have and the crew that we have to resurface streets. It's a very logical approach that every single block in this city is chronicled, it's put in a database, and every district benefits from what we can spend. I do also hear quite often about taxes. At 54.4 cents on a $100 valuation, guys, our city taxes are actually very economical. City of New Braunfels is a little less at 48. San Marcos is at 61. San Antonio is at 55. Luling's at 71. So we're right in the middle of that. And I got to tell you one thing that I'm going to tread lightly on moving forward is I would like to, because this is about a 40-year arrangement that we've had with GRMC. As a city-county owned institution. And I don't want to necessarily say we have to change that, but I'd like to see people from the county, the city, and the hospital get together to start exploring if there's other ways to maybe fund that hospital down the road. Because out of our 54 cents on a $100 valuation, that represents about 8 cents of that. So without that, our tax rate really would be around 46 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Wallace.
That money that goes to the hospital pays for indigent care.
And it's important,
Yeah.
All right.
not question.
I too, Mr. Levens, was going to mention the streets because that's what people say to me the most. But I'm just going to go to number 2 because the streets have already been mentioned. And that is inspections. And I've heard some people say, you know, I'm just going to leave the light switch a little crooked so that the inspectors can find something wrong and then we're going to be good. I mean, for some reason, I don't know what it is about the inspections that are confusing to the people that are being inspected. And so maybe a little bit more transparency in that area would be beneficial.
Mr. Odom, as a current candidate for your district, you've likely spoken to many voters, constituents, and so forth. What are the key issues that you've heard, and how do you plan to address these issues?
Well, not being an incumbent, I haven't had that much exposure to everybody, but talking to neighbors, it's just a natural human tendency. It's what they can see, touch, feel, what they see out their front window, when they sit down at the end of the year and they have to write out a check, you know, so taxes, infrastructure, those things are very important. I know we've mentioned them several times, but they are probably the top 2 priorities of any taxpayer or any citizen. You know, education is in there as well.
Mr. Wilk?
As the judge alluded to, we have people that are just moving here. They came from large cities. They want us to install sidewalks, street lights, underground sewer, you know, things of that nature, which the county just doesn't have the equipment, nor do we do. And then you get the people who have been here for a long time and say, hey, don't change anything. Keep my taxes low. But the only thing that they really want is better fire and EMS coverage. And we're working on that now through the fire marshal. And then when you start talking to the people in the cities, they say, well, how can the county partner with us? I got a road over this way, we really don't have a lot of money. So that's when they sit down with the commissioners and they say, hey, what can you do to help us? And most times it's an interlocal agreement that work with the cities that we supply the labor and equipment, they go ahead and buy the material, and we rebuild the roads for them. It's worked out in the past and will continue to work out. But they just want us to be there to help them. Even when they bring in businesses, they come to us asking, so what can you do to help us land this large company coming inside the way here, as they did with Caterpillar. We don't always give them all that they want, but we make sure that we're working with them day in and day out to bring the best possible businesses to Guadalupe County.
Mr. Roy, as a current unopposed candidate, you've likely spoken to many voters, constituents throughout your district, and I'm sure outside your district. What are the key issues you've heard, and how do you plan to address these issues?
And the main thing I've heard is related to that one department dealing with inspections, planning, zoning, code enforcement. I was kind of surprised, but it's been often that I've heard about it. But then you go down to City Hall, you talk to them, you talk to the city council members. They're doing a good job, and they're working hard. They're good people. Some of them lived in Seguin their whole life, like Tommy Schreiber. And yet there's this perception. What's that about? It may just be about education. I mean, I myself need to be educated on how they do things, why they do things. Some things have to be that way. I remember working for Daddy, and Johnny Abbott would show up. You felt like you were working with him, right? He was helping you get the job right. And for some reason, it feels adversarial today. I don't know what that's about exactly. I think at the core of it is good communication between that department and the builders and the community and the different ones. Because those complaints have come from even churches. I talked to a pastor the other day. Felt like this building project, they have been held up by that department. So how do we help that church understand why it was held up? So I hear a lot of that.
Thank you. What we'll do is I've got a couple more questions. If you're interested in writing a quick question down, please grab Morgan, write your question down, and we can get it in here. I do have a couple more to ask if we have time. But we've seen the city invest in Seguin Animal Shelter over the last 5-6 years. We're seeing them invest in the planning and environmental building that right down the street from City Hall. We've also seen a new library through a bond package, some improvements to some of the parks in town. What do you, when voters or constituents come to you and say, where is the money for the roads? Where is the money for the drainage? Where is the money for the infrastructure? What are your answers going to be?
Me?
Yeah, sorry. I was looking at, we're just going to go back this way. Sorry about that.
Fonda Mathis and I were just talking about that. I mean, there's certain things that are budgeted, right? That whole, out on North Austin, the whole utilities facility out there, that's being paid for by utilities, by utility bond. So the library was a bond issue, down the list, so you differentiate. Then comes maintenance. Then there's your general budget and maintenance. I mean, the money comes from where it comes from, right? Money is set aside for certain purposes, and that's what it goes to. Those big ticket items that are going to cost a lot of money, I think most often the constituency is given the opportunity to vote on it, approve it. For instance, my dad and I were on the opposite sides about the library, but now he loves it. He hears all these good things about it. He's like, that library turned out real good. So the money comes from where it comes from.
Once again,
Mr. Owens.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the city is very transparent. The budget is available to anyone. If they have a concern, I would encourage anybody and everybody to contact whoever they need to in the city, from the mayor, city council, any of the specific departments. In my experience, everybody is very friendly, very helpful, and that I think they would be more than happy to answer questions of where the money is, where the tax money is going. I have personally seen, I mean, and it's very apparent to whoever looks, where the money is going in so many different ways. We have outstanding public services. They really are very, very good public services here. The infrastructure, I mean, I would like to personally see more money go into the infrastructure. And I think that's going to be critical to the growth of the city in the long run. So,
Okay, so the question is, where is the money gonna come from for continuing, to improve the
Well,
streets?
we've seen the city over the last 5-6 years invest in the Seguin Animal Shelter. We're watching them put money into planning and environmental building. We've passed a bond package to address the library needs and some of the upgrades to the park. What is your answer gonna be, I guess, is the best way to ask when your constituents come to you and say, regarding infrastructure, roads, drainage within the city limits? How are we gonna address that question?
You know, budgets are really easy, it's just like at home. It's just that with the city, there's more zeros. If you can't pay cash for something that you really need, you have to borrow the money. And the way we borrow the money is we issue bonds, we sell bonds. Our city has a very high rating with the rating agencies, which means they're in very good financial health. So that means they do have the ability to issue debt. But you just have to weigh, just like you do at home, how much more can you add right now? How much more debt can you add to the coffers right now? And that's just a balancing act, and that all comes with a budget.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I think I'm going to borrow Penny's term, balance.
Yeah.
We've all talked about a vision for this community. We want a vibrant community, and it takes a balanced approach. It's not all about roads. You have to have the parks. You have to have the proper facilities. I'm very proud of that new library. I'm very proud of the new animal services shelter. If anybody went down to the old one, down at the end of River Street, that was a dungeon, guys. It was a dungeon. We had to improve these facilities. We shouldn't question the need to improve these sort of facilities in this town. And actually, former Mayor Mathis and former Councilman Shapey could probably tell you better where those funds came from. I believe those funds were set aside years ago. Was it from Rio Nogales? I forget exactly where those funds came from for those projects. The only issue really on this was the library that was part of the bond issue. So we've got to have a balanced approach, which includes a good hospital. I wanted to clarify, I wasn't picking on the hospital earlier. We've got to have balance to have the vibrant city that we all want. We want to be proud of where we live. We want people to come to our town, to drive our streets. And believe me, as a realtor, when I drive people through this town and they drive down 123 and they see that beautiful landscaping and they see the downtown and they see that beautiful library and they see the animal services shelter, they say, this is the kind of place I want to live. It's exactly what we're talking about. So sorry for sounding like I'm hitting a hot topic here. But guys, this is important. We want that balanced, vibrant community, and it does take money.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out today and answering these questions. And y'all kept it flowing, guys. I mean, y'all I didn't have to interrupt
Keep 'em
too
coming.
many times, so thank you. I guess what we'll do here is we'll go down the line, give you 60 seconds each, and tell me exactly why. You know, I know you're running unopposed, Judge, and several of you are, but tell us why you believe you're best fit for the job at hand, for the task at hand.
It truly has been an honor to serve as county judge. I've had the unique opportunity to serve with multiple county judges, to work with the Commissioners Court that has been truly supportive. Even when we disagree on a topic, we've been professional. There's been collaboration, I think, between the county and all the cities and different organizations that have come together to help us move forward to a place that we really haven't been as a county before. And it's a great feeling to be part of something that's more important than yourself. And that's what I feel like I'm a part of. And, you know, when I worked at the appraisal district, a big part of my job was sitting with thousands of taxpayers discussing their concerns. That's what drew my interest in public service, is because I wanted to help. I didn't think that one little special group of people should be the only ones that got support or got focused on. I thought everybody should be treated the same, and that's what I try to do every day. And I'll be honest with you, some people don't like it, but we work very hard to treat everybody the same way, give them the same type of support. And again, just want to thank you for putting this on. Thank Texas Lutheran for everything you've done, and thank you to everybody up here for your willingness to serve. Appreciate it.
Mr. Lee,
Was that one?
no, so, yeah, just tell us why why they should vote for you, what is, and, you know, I'd call it the sell, why, sell us on why to vote for you.
Well, at this point, I feel like we've covered everything that we really need to cover. Guys, I've been in this job less than a year. People told me when I took office that it takes a year to learn the job, and I feel like I'm way ahead of that curve. I am in City Hall frequently. This is a part-time job. Well, no, I don't even know if it's paid like a part-time job. It's maybe less than that. I'm treating it more like a full-time job, guys. I have a position and a career that affords me some flexibility. I spend a lot of time in City Hall. I'm listening to people. I advocate for what I think is what we've all said is common sense. I'm willing to ask questions, even if they're unpopular questions, such as about the hospital. I want what's best for this community. I liked what somebody said earlier. I want this to be, I think it was Penny who said this, I want this to be the kind of place where, Alex, you want to live here when you get out of college or whatever you choose to do. But when you choose your career, I want you to think this is a good place to be. Mom and I would like it close by too.
If elected, I would have the commitment to do my homework. As the many ordinances come before City Council at every one of the meetings, and it requires work ahead of time by those council people to know what they're voting on and why. I would make that commitment to do my homework, understand what I'm voting on, and if I don't understand, then I'll ask questions. And I want to get to the common sense best solution for the city. Also, I'm available. I am available by telephone, by email. I'm out and about in the community, involved in very many different events, and I think very approachable and willing to visit with anyone who would like to visit. Then I have one favor that I would like to ask of you, and I know you're going to vote because you're here, but maybe share with your friends the reminder that there were people that came before us that that struggled greatly for that right to vote, and that's something that we shouldn't take for granted. We should vote.
Thank you. Mr. Owen?
This might end up being an unusual election in District 7 because Ms. Wallace and I agree on very, very many things. I am loath to say I would be a better councilman than she would. I think it's a testament to everybody that's on the stage that they're here, they have a desire to serve the community, and they're all very interested in it and very invested in it. And I want to be a part of that. I would like to be a part of that, be a part of the team. I'm excited to be a part of the future of Seguin. I think my 40 years in business and manufacturing would be an asset to the council. I do understand manufacturing very well, and we are on that path to build that base even further. I'm a quick study. I agree with Ms. Wallace as well that I would spend a lot of time studying the issues and ask a lot of questions. And I'm just very, very proud of the city and this community. I was gone for many years and came back, and to see the changes that have already happened is very exciting to me.
Thank you, sir.
Well, on behalf of Commissioner Cope, she's been fortunate to be voted in. She's ending up her 16th season. So it's what she's, I guess, most proud of is she's been out the way there, and she's been able to take care of all the roads in her precinct. She's been a team player. When she needed to give up some road miles to another commissioner, she's been able to do that. We all work quite well together, our commissioners court, under the guidance of Judge Tetcher. He's an excellent judge, and we're all in this together, and we all work together, and Commissioner Cope is a team player.
Mr. Roy?
My son's a student in Austin at ACC. He's taking a government class, and he was assigned, the assignment was to interview someone that was running for either state, county, or city government, Just turned out his dad was running. So he's writing this paper about my campaign, which is kind of funny to me. But he wanted to interview some folks that I knew that were involved in city government, and I talked to them, and he interviewed Robert Haynes, who's on the SCDC board. And this is going to sound self-serving, but Robert complimented me. He said, Andy, your dad is one of the rare guys that he doesn't really have an agenda. No one's put him up to this. He's not representing just one group. He's representing all. Your dad has always had a heart for service. Those aren't my words. Those are Robert Haynes's. I worked for him for 15 years. And really, so there's no convincing I have to do, right? I'm unopposed. Both of me, because I'm the only guy on the ballot. But I really am doing this just because I love this town. I miss being involved, and I just want to serve.
Thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. My hat's off to you for taking time out of your evening to come and join us this evening. The candidates, thank you for answering any and all questions that we threw at you. And again, TLU for the facility, community forum, thank you for putting this together with the Texas Lutheran Center for Servant Leadership. So again, thank you. Make sure you get out and vote, and good night.
For more information, please visit tlu.edu.